once again, everybody, with the Truth series. Last time we were talking about the chip and all the stuff that's entailed in all of this stuff that I think to me, the Antichrist, not the false prophet. We'll be talking about the false prophet after this, and then get into what Jesus talked about in the book of Matthew and the book of Mark, as far as world events that were going to happen that I think we're missing right now because we're so consumed with the news. And every news channel just talks about it. We're missing everything that's going on out there, it seems. So we are going cashless. The Antichrist, it will take over our monetary system, I believe. He will want to take control of the world. He will want to be the leader of the world, and the best way to do it, like I said in the first series, is if we make him leader by him forgiving us of our debt, because our countries are going in debt so fast that we will not dig our way out. It's almost going to be impossible to dig our way out. So he will come along and say, I can help you. I will protect you. I will take care of you. All this stuff, all this scenario. And in the meantime, when he does all this stuff, he'll say, oh, by the way, make me leader and I'll do all this. Who would we not vote in? Some person. If he's Antichrist, I believe he'll probably start his ministry at the same age as Jesus began his ministry, around 30 or so. And some world leader, some very charismatic person will take control of things. Well, the mark, it's a loss of freedom. In Russia, just announced, I think, a day or two ago, depending where you are. As far as the series now, it's going to be a couple weeks ago. As far as the series goes, the Prime Minister of Russia, Mikhail Mishustin, now that's probably all wrong. But anyway, he's the Prime Minister under their main leader. He's the Prime Minister. He came on, he had a cabinet meeting of his own under Mikhail Gorbachev. He comes under him, but he had a cabinet meeting, and he gave the country, March 23rd, he announced this, he gave the country 5 days to come up with a development for authorities to track all Russians. And it's very, very simple, because they looked at South Korea, and they're there in their cabinet meeting, and they come up with this. He says, very simple. Let's come up with an app to track everybody on their phone, so that you can't be out of your house. And they're using the coronavirus there also to say, so we need a system. We need a system of keeping track of everybody. What are you doing out of your house? Well, I'm out of my house because. And you can go online to download your information into your phone, and then the police can say, okay, you don't get a fine. It's all about control, and they implemented this, by the time you get this, they implemented this a couple weeks ago. They gave the authorities 5 days to come up with a plan. It's there, the apps are out there, everything is out there to keep track of us. It's called phone tracking, and it's become mandatory, and you can go on to France 24 News on YouTube, look at some old episodes, and you'll see them showing this all taking place in Russia, because Russia is a couple weeks behind the world as far as the virus is concerned. But they're saying to their citizens, this is here to help you, because we'll track every person, and if that person has had the virus, then you'll know where that person is on your phone to stay away from that person. So everybody gets duped into the belief that, well, this way, if I don't have the app, I don't know who around me has had it. So it's all about control. It's all about trickery. It's all about deceit. It's all about lying. We know the devil is the father of lies, but they're there to help you. As far as the mark goes, as far as this chip goes, I think this chip is if it is not the real deal, it's a prelude to something, and it's getting us ready. Maybe it is that little that little mini chip, but you do your research on it. It gets scary. There's a lot of fake stuff out there. Make sure you're watching the right stuff. And but what does the Bible say about the mark? Before we get into the false prophet, we're just going to end with this. What does the Bible say? The Bible, because I've had people email me Can I take the mark as a Christian? Can I take this chip? It looks really good. I mean, man, I could control my house lights, everything, and my car, my radio, I could control my TV. Come on, Pastor. Well, the Bible's very adamant about this. Revelation 13:16 says, "It also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads." And remember, the RDFI chip that the one company has developed works off your body heat, and it just keeps going because that's its energy source. Revelation 16:2. So everybody's going to be forced to do it. But Revelation 16:2 says, "The first angel went and poured out his bowl on the land. Ugly, festering sores broke out on the people who had the mark of the beast." This is not the Christians. He says, all this happened to the ones who had the mark of the beast and worshiped its image. That the devil, we know we're not getting into that right now. The halfway through the tribulation, the devil's going to, the Antichrist, the false prophet's going to set up an image for people to worship. And it's all about these people that have already taken this chip, this mark. He says they'll break out in ugly, festering sores. They'll be identified by that and the mark. He also says in Revelation 14, he says, "A third angel followed them and said in a loud voice, 'If anyone worships the beast and his image, if anyone worships the beast and his image, and receives its mark on their forehead or on their hand,'" so we know it's people opposite on the other side of the fence to God. It's not people worshiping God. It's not people worshiping Jesus. It's people worshiping, as he says, the Antichrist, the devil, quite simply. He says, "They too will drink the wine of God's fury, which has been poured full strength into the cup of his wrath. They'll be tormented with burning sulfur in the presence of the holy angels and the Lamb." So in other words, you don't want to take part in this. He pronounces it in Revelation 14. You read this on your own. He also says in Revelation 19 and 20, "But the beast was captured, and with it the false prophet who had performed the signs on his behalf. With these signs he had deluded those who had received the mark of the beast." And it's a delusion. It's a trickery. It's deception. So as we sit here, and if it continues on, it'll be the highlight, but what's going on behind the scenes. Like I said in the first lesson, that I believe there's something behind, underneath. The devil always works that way. He just is not going to jump out with a bunch of with his horns and his red tail, because then we'll say, "Oh, he's at work here." He's behind the scenes, doing something behind the scenes, performing signs. He says the signs to delude those who had received the mark of the beast and worshipped this image. He said the two of them were thrown alive into the fiery lake of burning. He says burning sulfur. I think there's another verse there, burning sulfur. You don't want to go there. In other words, if you follow him, that's where you are led. The Bible's very, very pronounced for us to have wisdom. He says, "I saw thrones on which were seated those who had been given authority to judge. I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded because of their testimony about Jesus and because of the word of God. They had not worshipped the image, the beast or its image, and had not received its mark on their foreheads or their hands. They came to life and reigned with Christ 1,000 years." As the question was thrown at me, "Pastor, can I take it? It looks pretty good." The Bible's very adamant just in the book of Revelation. No. It's just no. There's 4 times it says this is what's going to happen to you. One time, this is what will happen to you when you don't take it. So if anything, I have to really, really delve on that, is the simple fact that when the law of the land oversteps or tries to rewrite God's law, we must always obey God's law. This is it. So the government one day is going to try and force us to do this stuff. You got to say no. It goes against my biblical standard. It goes against my faith. It goes against what Jesus was teaching us. It goes against me getting into heaven. We have to just be very firm on this. I'm going to end today with Mark chapter 9. He says in Mark 9, he says in 43, "If your hand causes you to stumble," Jesus said, "cut it off. It is better for you to enter life maimed than with 2 hands to go into hell where the fire never goes out." And you look at all of chapter 9 in Mark, you'll be totally amazed, because what Jesus was saying, we don't participate in things of the world. We have to cut it out of our lives. We have no place, we have no part, we have no interest in things as Jesus has laid out for us not to be partakers of. And the mark is one of them. I think it's an undertone, what's happening, the cashless society. All this stuff is a prelude of the Antichrist showing his face in the last days. And so he has kind of dealt his hand. We have to be very, very careful. And we have to be adamant and be truthful, use a lot of wisdom, and stick with God's word. And then we know the answers. We have all the answers. And as he says, then we have the truth. The truth will set us free. We will see you next time as we talk about the false prophets. Where we can go from there before we get into Matthew and Mark. And I'm sorry for getting so long on the Mark thing, but there's so much more I could have got into. But we're there, and we're going to jump into the false prophet, which is basically the second stage that the Bible outlays in the end days as far as Revelation is concerned. So see you next time. God bless you.